feel free to unmute yourself. I think you have the power to do that. And Croix, go ahead and unmute yourself and introduce yourself. Who are we talking to? What's the name? And tell us a little bit about your company, if you would. Gina. Gina, how many crews do you guys send out every day? Can you give us that? That'll give us a little feel for your company. I guess she's chatting, right? 15 to 20? Cool. Yeah. All right. So that's a sizable company. And how about let's see, who else did I see on this list? Well, I see Jake. Jake Silvas, go ahead and unmute yourself if you have a mic. How many crews do you guys send out in a day?
There's around 25 crews, I think, something of that nature.
Okay. So along the, well, slightly larger than Croix, but along the same lines. Now, Jake is in an interesting situation right now. The Silvas Group is, you guys are in the midst of moving from ClipXC to ITC. Croix, do we know whether, Gina, are you in XE or ITC? Waiting for her to answer on the chat. Hopefully move soon to ITC, but they're currently in XE. Yeah, most of our large companies are in XE. It's just hard to change, isn't it? It's really hard to change, and we're gonna talk a little bit about that. And that's one thing that Jake Silvas has been doing, is you've been talking with Mark Foster at AM Services and Bob Croft at Parkway Lawns. Jake, how's that going, the communication that you're having with them?
Right now, I know Kathy or my executive assistant, has been taking the lead on this. She spoke with one of the companies, I don't have it up in front of me, for about an hour and 45 minutes with their office admin. And a lot of the things that I was bringing up, Dave, from past experience, just growing with Clip since like 92 or whenever we started with Clip organization. So, you know, there's some pitfalls that I think I want to try to avoid, and that's why Kathy had to step out. She had to run out and grab some notary stuff here. But one of the things is we want to try and eliminate the pitfalls so we don't run into them in the transfer. And that's really where I'm looking at everyone on the webinar to bring forward what might help us, what they've encountered. Obviously, Clip, what you guys know has been some issues, and sometimes you don't know unless you're using it, and that's really what I would love to get out of this. So I think the transfer is going, but that's all the more I can tell you guys right now.
Good. Well, Bob Croft just joined us. Bob, you want to unmute yourself and tell us a little bit about your company, and if you can, speak to what Jacob just said. I know you're in contact with Jake, and I appreciate that. And Daryl's in there too. Daryl, you can speak up. Like I said, this is a closed group, so anybody can unmute themselves. I expect to have a back and forth. This is not a webinar. This is supposed to be a meeting.
Yes, sir. Good morning, everybody. Bob,
Morning, Bob.
Here at Parkway Lawn Service. We've been in business for about 40 years, and we've been with Clip since the very early days. It seems like 40 years, but I'm sure it's not, Dave.
No, hasn't been around that long, but close to it.
Yeah, we have not spoke with you guys about the transfer yet, me or Daryl, but you're welcome to email us probably to set up a time that would be good to talk, and would be glad to kind of let you know how the transition went mechanically or software wise. Customers transferred over just fine, I guess. But Daryl, my office manager, handled 80% of it, if not more. And he's probably better to talk to with regard to transition and speed bumps to watch out for, things to be thinking about as far as, okay, we can't do it the way we used to do it with regard to X, Y, and Z. What is the option for us now, and getting that set up? It definitely would behoove you to speak with a few people before you just dive in it, because we have some probably sage advice to give.
Well, that's great, and I really appreciate you. It looks like Daryl doesn't have a microphone either, so Gina, you're in good company. The I really appreciate you taking the time, Bob, to attend and help us
Yeah.
out with that. And you're right. I mean, from our standpoint, we made it so that we have the conversion going on. We've been doing this now for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now. We've been converting people. Little by little, we find out new things about it, and we're trying to. Excuse me. In a second, I'm gonna get into one of the big reasons why you guys need to consider this, and that's why we're starting with the Golden Group, and we're starting with the larger companies, because you need to continue smooth operations, and you need to get through it. And but to hear from you, you transitioned this past winter, right? It was in December, January. Bob?
Yeah, I think, gosh, it seems like we've been with it for longer than that, but we must have started last fall, or actually, I think we're well into our second year now. So it was pre-COVID, we got everything set up. So we definitely did it over the winter time. Highly recommend that if you can. If that is a quieter time for you. Some people it may not be. Yeah, so.
Yeah, Daryl says January of 2020 when you did it. So yeah, so you got a year and a half now that you've been using the ITC version. So anyway, let's talk about some of the reasons why somebody would go to ITC from XE, because it's going to be a transition, and it's going to be hard to do it on one. But one of my questions is, most of us are getting old, and do you have a succession plan? Do you know what you're going to be doing with your company in the future? And that's important. Are you going to sell your company? You're going to pass it on to the children? You're going to sell it to your manager? What are you going to be able to do with your company? And if it's in any one of those options, if it's in an old system, and I can probably share my screen here so we can look at these. And again, I'm open to, here we go, share screen. I'm open to anybody. Let's share that one. So do you guys see my screen? I'm not used to this. You are sharing.
I can see it, Dave.
Can you see the questions for? Okay. The
Yep.
date is wrong, 7/7. It's actually 7. Okay, good. So my question is, do you have this? And for any one of these options, you're going to have the newer software in place. And I don't know what everybody's plans are, but that would be worth talking about or thinking about. Let me get to this slide. We can go back to this. Why I need you to consider moving to Clip ITC. And one of them is that you guys know that Clip XC is based on FoxPro. FoxPro has been dead for 14 years. We are starting to have, in our tech support department, we are starting to have more and more problems with antivirus, with the transfer to QuickBooks software, with a bunch of the different programs that interface. And Windows, we don't know when Windows is going to issue an upgrade. A little while ago, just a couple of months ago, Windows issued an update. It happened at night, and all of a sudden people couldn't print out of Clip XE anymore. And that wasn't us, that was Windows that did it. Of course, we reacted to it. We made a workaround, and we tried to figure out how to do it. But that's really concerning to me, that something can happen overnight and you can all of a sudden not have the ability to use Clip XE. And that's not going to happen with ITC because ITC is modern, but Microsoft has said that FoxPro has been dead and is dead. And we're starting to see more of that. Antivirus software, we have terrible problems with antivirus software. They don't recognize, the antivirus does not recognize FoxPro anymore. It's funny that somebody told me one time, well, why don't you write clip.exe so that the antivirus doesn't see it? And I'm thinking, no, that's a virus. I'm not into writing viruses. And then number 3 is no programmers available right now. Guess what, guys? I'm the only programmer for FoxPro. I'm it, and I'm getting old. And there's no enhancements. We're not enhancing XE at all because it'd be foolish for us to spend any time creating more enhancements to it. And so it's dangerous as living on borrowed time. What if I get hit by the proverbial bus? Then we have no FoxPro programmer to fix stuff, if anything. Now it's very stable at the moment, but the problem is that there are other things that we don't control that are affected. So I'm concerned for your business. Your success is our passion. Your success is our business, and I really am concerned, and that's why I'm voicing these concerns right now to you guys that are on this call. And pretty soon we're going to be voicing it to everybody else. But I'm thinking the larger companies need to know this sooner than the smaller companies could change rather quickly. So I'm concerned for your business because it could stop working at any time. If I get hit by the proverbial bus, no more support. If I'm in Cancun enjoying myself, I'm not going to be able to get back in and fix whatever happens. We've had problems, like I said, with Core Objects. That's the software we use to connect to QuickBooks. And I don't want your company to have problems. So we need to do this now. Anybody want to talk about what your succession plan is, or how you see the future of your company going forward? Nope. Do you have any questions about this, about the dangers that I'm outlining out for you?
Dave.
Yeah, Jake
Silvis. So, succession planning, I think it's critical for anyone involved in business. I mean, too many times we see the pitfalls, whether it's the younger generation coming on, not knowing what you stated, everything's being up to Dave to run it. Everything has to be run off of systems. When we were part of Landop, part of the reason why we're not part of Landop is there's 4 systems and 4 pieces of the pie in business, and unfortunately they couldn't figure out the computer side of things to get everything talking 100%, and that was concerning. 9 years later, we were still in the same boat. So my kids are young. They're 15 and 12. I'm old, but they're young, and what is the plan? Everyone always asks me. So the reality at the end of the day is that plan has to come into play by putting it down on paper and charting it out. And this is part of the reason why we're changing to a mobile-based type system, the ITC, because we know it's change is tough, but we know if we don't, and I didn't know all the things that you just stated there were happening. I knew it was still built off of FoxPro, but the concern long-term is it scalable? If it's not scalable, then we're just going down a dark road that's going to end up burning us.
Yeah, you know how they talk about changing ladders, right? You're on the wrong ladder. So you have to actually go down and get on the right ladder that'll go forward. And that's been my concern for the last 10 years is, or more than that, actually, more than 10 years, is we had to reprogram Clip from scratch to create the online version ITC. And that every other version of Clip has just been I go in and make better code and new functionality and stuff like that and just keep moving forward. With the ITC, we actually had to go back to the very beginning and start it with a blank slate, which is good because the functionality, those of you who have the larger companies might have already run up against this. There are limitations even in FoxPro. No single file can be 2 gigabytes. Once it gets to 2 gigabytes, all kinds of things start breaking. And so people would have to erase history and stuff like that to stay under the 2 gigabyte uh, um, file size. Now that we're in the cloud, it can be as big as you want. There's no limit to it because we're using modern Microsoft SQL. By the way, all of our backend stuff that we use for the cloud is all, none of it is open source. None of it is, weird stuff. Everything is Microsoft or some other well-known company that is supporting everything that's on the back end of Clip ITC. So that's important for you guys to know. And I had to create this because I knew this was coming up and I knew we had to do it. So now is the time, I think, that we need to move forward to this. And you're right, Jake, that's part of it. How are you going to pass this on to somebody if you have some old piece of software that could stop working at any point in time? And that's really dangerous. I don't like that. So anyway, so what is stopping you? This is my question. And I guess this would be directed at you, Croix, because Jake sees it and he's moving. So my question is for you, Gina, is what's stopping you from moving to Clip ITC? And these are some of the options, some of the things that I have is I hate to change, learning curve, other systems depend on Clip XE. Lenny's not here with us, but he has other systems that actually talk to Clip XE, and he's going to have to change those as well. And then the other one is lack of functionality. There's the view that there's lack of functionality in Clip ITC. There is a little bit on the project side, but on the rest of it, it's actually getting better. I like Gina says, watch out for buses. Okay, I'll be careful. I'll be careful. So let's see. Is transitioning, Gina says, our business is transitioning to the 2 sons, Jeff and Lyle, so that Don can retire soon. As to ITC, Jeff and I did a Zoom with Bill a couple months ago over the changes. We had not trialed it in years. We think it's ready now, just finding the best time of year to get it scheduled. Yeah, we need to, you need to start working on that. And what we want to do is we are here for you too, by the way. This is why I'm having these meetings. I want to find out what it is that you need. Dave, my son, he's the product manager for ITC. And we need to know realistically, because some people will say, well, I don't like the way it does this or that, but yeah, but you can do it over here. We can do it this way. So it's a matter of learning a new way. But there might truly be something that stops you from being able to use ITC in your current thing. We need to know that, because we have over 1,000 companies that are using Clip on a daily basis, and we need to find all those little corners, and that's why I'm starting at this point. So Jake, as you go in through this process, we are going to be right there with you, and we want to be a part of this. And again, really appreciate Mark Foster, AM Snowplowing, and Bob Croth for stepping forward and being willing to talk and answer questions and stuff like that. So a lot has been upgraded. Well, you're right, Gina, because this is the only thing we've been working on, and we have a whole team of programmers. By the way, Clip XE was mainly me. I was mainly doing it, and I'm really good at Fox Pro, but that's a dead language. So what good is that? But the ITC, we have a whole team that works on it every day. Every day they've been working on it. So if you looked at ITC 2 years ago, it's different today, and it'll be different in a couple months. And we're having meetings actually now every 2 weeks. Dave is having a meeting on these are the new things we just added to Clip over the last 2 weeks. So we're moving, and we're moving pretty fast on this stuff. So anyway, what are the reasons that are stopping you? And then I have a question for you, like you, Gina, and Jake. What was it, or what can I do? Help me out here. What can I do, or what was it in your case, Jake, that made you say, okay, I need to make this move? And how can I communicate that better to the other landscape companies that are using Clip? How can I communicate that better and say, Or what would be a good strategy for me to use to say, look, guys, for your sake, you need to change. You need to get up here. Tell me what do I do besides turning everybody off and all of a sudden they can't use it?
So our biggest thing is we don't do much for management companies, but there are a couple management companies that you have to use their platform, log in, log off, take pictures of the site and so forth. As much as we understand that and hate it, we give pushback and we say, well, we won't work for you if we have to do that. The reality is knowing that these platforms are built and they are working. Some of them are more cumbersome than others, but ultimately where this started, we were not looking at changing this till after Cindy retired. Her cousin worked for me for years. Cindy has been here, and she told us a year and a half ago she'd be retiring this December. We didn't want Cindy to learn a new system. Cindy said, hey, actually, this is pretty simple. So our concerns were our own concerns. They weren't the company's concerns, if you follow where I'm coming from.
Mm-hmm.
We internally, general manager, myself, said we don't want to burden Cindy with learning a new program. And in the other side of it is, no, it's actually pretty simple to learn. I think our crews, because a lot of them are younger, they all use Facebook and everything, so they can do these things on their phones a lot easier. And then the other thing that really frustrates the heck out of me, 36 years in this business, started when I was 15. I'm just, seeing garbage paperwork come back in, because we're trying to decipher what a crew did out in the field and a manager didn't review it, and it's getting logged in and it's logged in incorrectly, and, either missed billings happening, if it's a T&M type thing, or the lack of accountability back to the crew. Because if we log it in incorrectly here in the office, we go back to the crew and ask them what's going on. But when we dig a little deeper, we find out that it was the back office that made the mistake on the recording. So the other thing that we see as a huge savings is, yeah, you're spending some money for each license, if you will, to have the crew be able to log in and log out. But I think it's what, Dave, $20 a thing. It's
Yeah, $20.
Yeah, for a company our size. So we're spending some money, but when you really look at the math, we're cutting out an employee.
Right.
And the way we addressed it to our team is, listen, if you had more time to do something that you want to get done or need to get done for the company, and you're not being burdened with data entry, which is just monotony. I mean, it's what we used to do in the past, which is perfectly fine, but there are easier, smoother methods. And I'm very operations minded. I want to see things run smooth. I want to see not so much the redundancy. I want to see it done once and put it to rest. And that's where we looked at it and said, we have to make this, change. It's going to be rough. It's going to be tough, but at the end of the day, it's the best thing for the company. Because if not, we're going to be living in the Foxborough, the Stone Ages, Dave, no pun intended.
Yeah.
And that is not going to be conducive to us continuing to grow. We have a second location, and just being able to manage, like, for example, right now, the paperwork that's coming back and forth is they do the work, we bring the paper up, or they scan it, they take a picture, whatever method means that the manager's getting that back to the main office, is just a time waster. And if the crews can be doing it while they're out in the field, and we're just spot checking, if you will, that's the way I look at it, then we know that we're capturing the right information. And then if we have to make corrections, we spoke about a couple little things. I don't want to be long-winded with Bill in regards to, if we had multiple crews, or not so much multiple crews, multiple jobs on a site where two guys show up, they start mowing, one guy peels off and starts doing weeding, but they're billed out as different per occurrence costs. How are we capturing that time accurately? And that's a little bit of a hiccup, I think, still on the recording side of things. I'm a little anal when it comes to that. I want accurate numbers because that's what we're estimating off, because we're only selling time. We're not selling material. We're selling
Sure.
time. That's,
Sure.
you know, what our business
Absolutely.
is based off. So that's a little bit of a concern still, Dave, that we can't have like multiple things going. And maybe someday it can, but right now I understand it's going to be the law of averages, and we're going to have to look at what the crew do for the whole day, or there might be a little bit of tweaking in the back office. But if we're going in and tweaking it that much in the back office, then we're really defeating the purpose of what we're trying to accomplish.
Right. And there could be some workarounds too. I appreciate what you're saying, and one thing is, if you made every employee a crew, then you could track everything that's going on. Anyway, that's just coming to my mind. But I immediately go to programming and start. I should
Yeah,
keep this in. But Daryl talks about how much time is saved with recording once they went to ITC. So you're absolutely on the right track there, Jake. Yeah, Dave.
Yeah. Just to dive into the weeds for a second, there is a lot of adjustment that can be done in the field by the crew. So they can change the times and stuff if they know there was a mistake and you give them permission to change times. They can change the times and correct stuff like that. But yeah, I gotcha. With that particular case, I think we're expecting one crew to be working on one job at a time at the moment. That's kind of how it's designed. So
The Gina talks about how they're using Clip2Go, which is good, but Clip2Go also has its own problems. And you're right that it could go away. Well, FoxPro could go away at any moment. And probably, I don't know. What are the probabilities? I don't know. I don't control Microsoft, I have a little bit of stock in Microsoft, but not much.
yeah, and just the systems of sending the data up from like a desktop online and then bringing it all back and doing those kind of syncs and stuff. It's not the right way to do it. The right way to do it is clip ITC. So which ends up meaning that we've got a nice smooth process with clip ITC to be able to just keep that work flowing between the web application and the devices, because it's all online. So with clip XE, it's like we're pushing it online sometimes and then trying to pull it back. So
yeah, the difference is
Clip2Go was cool for the time, but it can be done better now. So.
And yes, Gina, it should be easier because your guys are used to using Clip2Go. We had one of our customers that went to ITC from XE, and they were insistent on still printing route sheets and recording the work. And they didn't like it that the record work screen or the post work screen wasn't the same as it was in XE. But the problem was that they didn't understand what they're supposed to do is have the guys record some of that work. And Jake, to your point that you were pointing out, it's much better now to have the guys do some of that recording. There's tons of permissions that you can give them, either give them or take away from them. But if they're, for example, if somebody is charging for bags of grass, right, during the springtime, then to have the guy actually enter in how many extra bags of grass he collected at the job is so much better than him writing it on a piece of paper. And hopefully your guys that are recording it will see it, and hopefully they'll understand his writing and all that kind of stuff. Taking care of stuff once and done while you're there is, I'm with you, is so much better and so much easier. And you still get to review it and you get to post it. So everything is still on there, but it's so much better. You get the crews to do some of that work. Like you said, $20 a month. It's less than $1 a day. And then the crews are recording some of that work, and you use your people in the office to do stuff that takes more intelligence and can have a better effect on your company. Anyway, how do you guys feel? Give me your feeling back, because I need to push this, and this summer is when I'm starting to push this hard. That I need to push to get people to move away from XC and into ITC. So I've had a couple of ideas on it, and one of them is I could just say, you know what, if you're going to stay on XC, I'm going to have to raise the price like a huge amount of money to make people wake up and say, you need to move over here. Another one is just send out a letter and say, do you understand how dangerous this is to you? You guys out there, tell me what you think I should do to try to get people's attention. We've been sending emails, we've been calling people, we've been doing stuff like that. Nobody wants to pay attention to this. What do you think I should do from your standpoint that would make you sit up and take notice?
Dave, Jake Silvas. The number one thing that you said there was it's less than $1 a day per crew, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, that's a no-brainer right there. Kathy just stepped back into the office here, and she said we're looking at like $800 a month. You know, for the size of company we are, okay, let's just call it 12 grand for the year. Yeah, I hate to pay it, but you know, if I can't bill $5-6 million, then what the hell good is it? You know, I mean, really, I mean, we got to look at it in a perspective. Yeah, you know me, Dave. I jack you all the time when we used to speak more often way back in the day. But again, it's how can people change? And it's kind of like we get a new Microsoft, you know, Office suite, whatever. It's, I don't know. I think I'm on 2013 because I hate change, Dave. And
me too.
I get the new one and I'm sitting there, I'm frustrated. I'm calling the designers over here saying, how the hell does this thing work? I'm frustrated. And they're like, no, here it is. I'm like, oh, okay. You know what? It takes about a week or two. You get used to it and you kind of forget about the old one. You know, you say, I like some of the features, but these are the features I got to use. So how to get people to change? I think number one is show them what it really costs. Show them the ROI. If that doesn't hit home, then I don't know. That's a tough sell. But I think the reality is, you know, this is like Cindy. We know Cindy's retiring the end of this year. We knew it for a year and a half. That's our planning. And if you fail to plan to fail. So at the end of the day, it's on us. It's not on anyone other than us to make that change. So I think if you tell them Fox Pro, we're going to quit supporting it, period. Because I know what you said. You send the emails out and they kind of get into the spam filter, etc. This is it. This is the deadline. We're not going past this any further. You got to pick one or the other.
Unfortunately, but you guys can understand that I'm doing it for the sake of their company, because it's like, I don't want this to stop. And I get, you know, 700 calls in a day saying, why doesn't my software work? It's like, that's not good for anybody. So, Jake, you're voting for just cut them off or say it's going to cut off. And Daryl says, same thing. Won't change unless you cut them off. Yeah, Croy's, Gina says, maybe show comparisons. My first thing is to try to get people to pay attention to what we're saying. I had one guy, he was upset at us because his software stopped working because his credit card didn't work and stuff like that. He has a really old version and he's like, it's your fault and why this. And I'm like, we sent you probably 42 emails saying update your version because we don't like what it does and you need the new version. And he didn't pay attention to any of them. And of course, now when it stops working, now he's upset that it stopped working. But it's sort of like, what more can I do? I'm on this side of the thing. You know, if you don't pay attention to my emails, there's not a lot I can do. But anyway, I've been doing this and I love my customers. It's great. And you know what? It's a compliment actually that everything works so well that people don't think about it. That's the best thing. You walk out to your car and it starts, you know, and that's a good thing. Question, my next question for you all. If you have more thoughts about this. Oh yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I think Bob did the raise hand notification. Bob, did you have anything you wanted to add on that?
Yeah, I'll just jump in here, Dave. You know, I guess you might start sending out snail mail letters once a month. Maybe you could, you know, start out at one level and sort of increase the urgency every 30 days or so. I think sometimes change is hard, like you said. A lot of us, we're like farmers. We're a, you know, a 3 to 15 man company, and we don't like change. And if it works, don't fix it, or if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And so I think maybe just, you know, a continued physical letter out to the guys. Maybe change the color from white to
Red.
pink to red.
Red.
That's my 2 cents. That's it.
That would be good, actually. We did that a long time ago. We actually would send out, I forget what version it was. We sent out certified letters, you know, to people where they had to sign for them. You know, it's expensive, but let's see, you guys had some really cute videos back in the day, maybe some silly videos about how awful XE is and how much better yeah, we can do that. All those ideas are good, and if you have more ideas, send them my direction, because I like the letters. Maybe that'll get the attention. Another thing I wanted to ask you all is this one is, you know, that we have Clip Pay now. Again, we've been sending out a bunch of information on that. We want to be able to bid on your company. I think we did a bid for Jake. I think we did a bid for you, and we can save you numbers of thousands of dollars per month if we got you onto Clip Pay. Obviously, this is from Full Steam. Full Steam made a huge investment into Clip last year. And so this is not going to go away. This is going to be, and we're going to get in tighter and tighter and tighter, which is great with it, with ITC. ITC is going to be even tighter into the whole credit card thing, which will again take away all that busy work that has to happen. So give us the opportunity to run a bid for you. This is a bid that we did on a fairly large customer that we have in Maryland, and we're saving him about 14,000. No, saving him about $5,300 per month. So that more than pays for Clip. And anyway, let us do that for you. Okay, Dave, can you take over? I want to show you. I'm excited about this, Bob. Yeah, you may move, Gina. You might have more, and it speeds everything up. It's the credit card. Gina says we have very few credit card customers currently. I understand that. I understand that, you know, and there's a charge and there's a percent and stuff like that. But when you think about Clip, for example, and the way we charge you, we don't accept anything but credit cards. And the reason we don't do that is I don't want to pay somebody to sit in the office and process checks and have to go through and then possibly make mistakes. I have this Woodbury Water Company supplies water to our business here and to my house. And they send these little tiny postcards out. And in the postcards, most of the customers in this backwards county of Cannon County, Tennessee, most of the customers actually drive to the water company and pay that every month. It's crazy. And they don't have a way to do the automatic payment or anything like that. And so those cards get lost. They misapply the payment to somebody else. All this kind of stuff happens. I get this call saying we're about to turn your water off because you haven't paid. And I look at, like, I've paid, and it's only a $30, per month. It's nothing. Anyway, stuff like that. The more we can eliminate that kind of stuff, the better. Go, Dave. Dave, take it away. Share your screen and show us what we have in mind. I'm excited about this. This is going to be fun. This is going to be really, really fun. Something I've been thinking about for years, and we're finally getting it going. So go ahead, Dave. Take it away.
All right. Can you see that screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so this is just very beginning, early stages, but we're trying to get some thoughts, I think, and ideas around where we should take this, or where we should go with this. So what we're looking to do is we're looking to kind of benchmark people and help people figure out how they're doing as a company, give them kind of a number to kind of see where they fall within our clip customers. One of our goals is to make our customers the most successful landscapers out there. So one way that I think we're going to be measuring that is just paying attention to like dollars per man hour, talking to you guys, and making sure that you guys are the most successful that you can be. I think one way to help people become more aware would be to create some kind of gamification kind of thing where we show you where you are on a scale type thing, show you how you're doing, and then maybe at some point that could turn into some networking, or maybe some like interviews or podcasts or something with some of our really successful customers. Just asking them, what are you guys doing? What's working? What's not working? What ideas can we share and take and use amongst each other? So we would probably have some kind of a graph like this, and this data kind of shows you like some people in this mix are at 120, but we've got some people that are really low performers, like under $30 per man hour.
And let me interrupt here. This
Yeah.
is real data taken from ITC customers. So it's anonymized. There's anonymity in there. We have the option, obviously, once you're using ITC, your data is available to us, but we're very careful with that. We're not going to let it out anywhere. But so we actually have customers way down there on the right-hand side that are only making, what is that, $14, $12 per man hour? It's
Yeah.
like they're not making money. And so if you were to look at this chart and we could show you, and we could say, we could have an arrow way down here in the red and say, this is where you are. It would make you think, I need to talk to these green customers over here, these green companies, and see what I'm doing, what they're doing right, or why my data is not being recorded correctly. And we also want to separate it by type, so by crew type. So is it a mowing crew? Is it snow plowing? Is it mulching crew? Is it cleanup? Is it? So we're going to have a different few categories that you can choose from to do that. So go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
Yeah, I feel like you're going deep fast, right? So the idea is let's help people understand where they are and where they fall. We want to help you guys make the best possible decisions. So somebody down here, and actually I'll keep moving forward because we'll get to that in a minute. But one thing that was kind of interesting is business size actually doesn't have that much to do with revenue per labor hour. So dollars per man hour isn't necessarily related to company size. It seems like a lot of like mid-sized companies tend to fall, at this 40 to 60. Some of these small companies, actually, sorry, I'm going too fast. On this left-hand side, these are the smaller companies. On the right-hand side are larger companies. And so you see that it's pretty scattered. The dollars per man hour on that left axis is pretty scattered. It's not really correlated to how large your company is. So being a really large company doesn't necessarily make you more profitable. So that the bad news there is you can't just grow like crazy and expect to be extremely profitable. You need to pay. But the good news is if you pay attention to a lot of those factors, it doesn't matter how big you are, you can improve your profitability regardless of how big your company size is. Another thing, so these are 4 different kind of samples from the data. The left top quartile section. So that's the larger company sample, second, third, bottom. So if we break this data into, say, 4 sample companies, the smallest, or not the smallest, the lowest dollar per man hour on the right, highest dollar per man hour on the left, and then each one of these bars is a crew, you can see that there's a lot of difference between crews. So it seems like even inside of high performing companies, you've got some crews that are only bringing in, say, like $50 per man hour, where your company average might be at like $80 a man hour. And you can see how it kind of falls off, even in a company that's not performing real well. You've even got some good crews, and that could be for a lot of different reasons. We'll move on to the next one. So here's that top quartile company, this one on the left. And then here's basically a crew efficiency report. So here's the estimated versus budgeted, or estimated, I'm sorry, budgeted versus actual. So if we look at crew 1, we can see that what we budgeted was 110 per man hour. That's what we rate the job at. That's what we're trying to get for that crew. And their actual was 138. So they're 25% better than the goal. So if this company is shooting for, say, $100 per man hour, they've got some crews that are really doing well on performing it. Their bids are coming in low. We can see that a lot of these bars are down. So 40, 41, 49, 65. So something is going on with the guy that's bidding, it seems like, because their bids are a little bit low, but some of these crews are actually performing really well, even though the bids might be off a little bit. So they might need to adjust their rate or how fast they can do jobs, tweak some things.
So the
possibly on
idea,
the bidding side.
a question Gina had was, how good is the data? And I told her, I said, we eliminated the zeros and we tried to filter it to just realistic numbers.
Yeah, and this is really just sample data. What I want to do here is just get a feel for if you guys think this is valuable, if these kind of graphs and stuff could spark really good discussions, and also if they could help you guys make good decisions. And that's kind of this next chart. Did you want to add something to that, Dave Senior?
I was just gonna say the idea, again, I'm stating the obvious, but the idea is that you start out with where is my company in relation to other companies, and then you start drilling down and you get down to, well, where are my crews in relation to each other and in relation to other companies' crews. And of course, you get all the way down to the job costing report, which is each job that is being done. So the idea is starting it out from an industry side and being able to go all the way down to your customers. I mean, it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. And this data, as we kind of break down this kind of data, it helps us figure out some stuff that's going on. So this shows us how we can break down revenue per labor hour. That's dollars per man hour, right? One way that you can break that out is you can figure out what the pricing component is, and that's revenue. So the amount that you're charging divided by your budgeted hour. Hopefully you guys are setting that and creating a budget based on what your goal is as a company. But then so once you have that set, and that component really tells you if that number looks wrong or something, it tells you that you're not doing your bidding is not what you're aiming for as a company. It's not meeting your goals. So to fix that, you might raise your bid rate, maybe do some retraining with estimators and stuff. On the productivity side, we can compare those budgeted hours that we've got from pricing to the total hours, and that helps us see if the guys are able to hit those bids or not. If we wanted to break that down farther, we've got the efficiency on the job. So we can measure how they're doing budgeted versus their actual hours. Then we've got a number that we call utilization, which is that time between jobs, at the gas station, driving to the first job, stopping at a gas station to go to the bathroom in the middle of the day. All kinds of stuff that happens that we don't really have a great category for. That's called utilization. So what we're thinking is maybe we could do some kind of a dashboard. Let me back up a second. So there's kind of two parts to this. One is how can we measure against each other, and maybe just using the dollars per man hour, seeing how we're doing, if we're getting better as a company, and just give you that in a really upfront kind of way on a main screen, and show you if people want to participate, then show you how you're doing compared to them on a graph. The other side of it is we could create kind of a dashboard for your own company. So just to look into the details of what you're doing all in kind of one place. So it would be something like this. We have not worked it out at all, but we'd want to show you, hey, here's the total revenue for this week. Here's the dollars per labor hour that we're doing. It's better than it was last week. Here's how that pricing component comes out. So that's the dollars per budgeted hour. So this is what your bid rate is. I know you might be shooting for something in particular, but this is what it actually is. Here's crew efficiency, and then here's utilization. And that way you could compare, crew 1 to crew 2, see how they're doing. And then get a sense of like what the average travel time was, stuff like that. And one thing that we really want to get from you guys is this information useful? Is there something that we're missing that would be like more useful to you guys? Do you see how this could be helpful, spark some discussions, and just help you guys keep a pulse on your company? Again, our goal is to make our customers the most profitable companies out there. So
Gina and I are having a discussion. Says that job costing really changed her company, and I said that's great. That's what we push really hard. And then she's asking, "Is this different than job costing?" And I said, "Well, no, it is job costing, but it's being able to compare yours with other companies. It's being able to compare job costing from crew to crew. You still have the job costing down to the customer level, which is obviously what you need, the job level. But give us your reactions."
And the other thing that this does with job costing is it gives us a fast, easy place and way to see this information. Like this efficiency number, you'd have to go do like crew efficiency or employee efficiency reports and stuff to get that. For your pricing, it kind of brings everything into one place.
We already
allows
have
those comparisons to happen faster, see it more often, that kind of thing.
We already have the job costing on the front screen of Clip ITC, which those of you who haven't looked at ITC lately, you'll see that it's kind of in your face. What's my job costing per customer, per crew, per for my company, for yesterday, for all that kind of stuff, because we really want people to pay attention to. If there's one thing you need to look at, it's the job cost one number. Bob, do you still have your hand up?
Yeah, Dave,
go
I
ahead,
do. You may have noticed I entered and exited the room about 4 or 5 times in the last 5 minutes. Switched over to my phone, so I can't see everything on the screen quite as well as my iPad, but
Okay,
I'm enthusiastic about being able to anonymously see what other companies are doing revenue wise. So I'm all thumbs up for that.
cool.
I have questions, probably a number of them I won't bother with right now because I need to hop in the car, and I'll probably keep the meeting going, but I'll mute as I hop in the car and run back to the office for an interview. But it might be nice if you sent out an email collecting our thoughts and allowing me to give some feedback, maybe via email when I have a little
Absolutely.
more time to organize my thoughts about this.
Cool. Well, we wanted to, yes, thanks for your input, Bob. We wanted to present it before we just go ahead and spend a lot of time creating it. Just to know, I'm excited about it. I think it's cool. I think it's going to be a better way to do the whole, those of you who remember, what do we call it? The clip forum. It's going to be a better way to do it because you're going to be able to, once you anonymize everything, and then you can actually be willing to put yourself out there and say, look, I'm going to let people know this is my company, or at least some part of it. We're going to have a lot of permissions and stuff built into it where you could do that. And then people can start talking to each other. And I think that would be really cool. I love it when you guys all talk to each other. It helps a lot. Anybody else thoughts about this?
Yeah, and I think one thing that it helps us with as a group, kind of, it helps us just kind of know, like, yeah, it's time for us as a company to bump up our prices. So next time we redo contracts, we're gonna push the price up because I know my guys are efficient. I know they're working hard and using the best methods possible. That means that my pricing's probably off. I see other people are in this range. It's probably time for me to do that too.
Yeah. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of our time that we have together. Is there any other questions or comments or anything we can do? It would be helpful if we can narrow it down to region. Yeah, you're right, Gina. And yeah, I'm thinking about that too. You could say, well, either I want to compare myself with people in the same region, or I don't want anybody in my region to see what I'm doing. And I see it as both directions. It can work both ways. So obviously there's going to be a region, because I think if you're working in Manhattan, it's going to be different than if you're working in Nashville, like you said.
Yeah, initially one of the things we thought was going to be important was company size. And as we're looking at stuff and trying to figure out how we would do it, it kind of appears that company size actually doesn't matter that much. So even if you were comparing kind of numbers and talking to a company that was smaller than you, that might not matter. We haven't checked the region side of it yet. That's something we plan on doing, just to see, like, would that be a big factor? I know for business methods that could matter a lot, because some people run year round and some people do snow.
Yeah,
So
and there could be even more segmentation. We got to know whether this is useful first, and
yeah,
then we can start adding some more segmentation. This is the cool part. This is part of the coolness of everybody using ITC, because when you use ITC, all this data is up in the cloud. And so this is the kind of stuff that we can do. We can't do that with your data that's sitting on your server over in your office. But I think it could make us more of a family kind of thing. Jake.
So Landolf had that there towards the end of our tenure with them. And what it does, it creates the competitiveness. So what we would see on that board, you would see where we stand as a company, and it was a revolving board, so it was constantly changing every 10 seconds or whatever. and it showed the top 3 companies in Landau at the time. So it would show, you know, sales, it would show margins and so forth. I can't remember exactly how it was pictured. I might have a visual of it, but what it did is it created the competitiveness between the other companies. And it also said, well, hey, if he's got a guy selling $1 million a year, I want to be talking to his sales rep. How's he doing it? What's he doing? And that was really one of the best things of that organization. And I think Clip could create that very easily. Like you said, the database, you have it in the cloud. If people are on it, it's easily accessible for you to pull it and anonymously put that out there. Or if the company says, yeah, you can utilize my information. The only problem is we were a tighter knit group, but you take 1,000 people, put it up there, and you know, if you have the 3 top companies up there, they're going to get pounded. They're going to constantly be on the phone, mentoring and coaching and everything else, which then, I mean, that could turn into another business, I guess, but
Yeah.
you guys see where I'm coming from, but
Yeah,
but I just
exactly.
think it's good to know where the information's coming from, and it's got to be accurate. You know, garbage in, garbage out, and we've said that for many years. Dave, you've preached it from the very beginning. So that would be my only input. I think it's a great tool to challenge one another against their operations, but in the same token, people may not want to be involved in it. They would want to opt out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great
Realistic-
conversation, guys. I'm going to mute myself, but I appreciate being invited to your group here, Dave, and we look forward to adding more information in the future.
Yeah. Well, please. Thanks for participating.
One thing that we were talking about is, could we break it down into smaller groups, like you're saying? And if we did have smaller groups, like what would we base it on? Region seems like probably the most likely, and business size probably not it. So yeah,
Yeah.
good observations. I'll it sounds like Bob's going to be reaching out to me, and I'll if you've got time at some point, I'd love to reach out and talk about it more with you, Jake. So I'll shoot you an email or something.
Cool. Well, we'll have a
so.
follow-up. We'll have a follow-up email on this, and we'll probably have this recorded, so we'll actually include that as well. And then we can start. But absolutely, it'd be great to talk to you. On the thing about the top 3 companies getting hammered, it's very interesting that my experience has been these people that are in the right red are the ones that don't want any help and think they're doing it the best way possible. It's so funny. Anyway, it's like the people that need the help the worst are the ones that just like, I'm better than everybody. And anyway, and it's the big companies over here on the far left-hand side that are out there and ready to learn and ready to figure out how to do it better. Interesting. Anyway, we're over time. I don't want to take any more of your time.